This doesn't work. Okay, so this lesson, with the beginning of this lesson, we are starting our study of the Gospel of John itself. We won't cover all of John, but we'll cover, there'll be some things that we leave out, but we will go through the Gospel from beginning to end. So we've got the background. We know who the people are. We know the time period and all that stuff. And now we're going to jump into the Gospel of John, beginning with John 1. And the first 18 verses of John 1 are called the prologue. I told you that yesterday. And those 18 verses are the foundation for everything that follows in the Gospel of John. Whereas Matthew, Mark, and Luke present Christ as a king, a servant, and a man, respectively, John portrays Christ as the divine Son of God. Therefore, he is Christ the King. And he is the servant and man that the other Gospels talk about. But John wants us to see him as God, because that is who he is. Those others are true, but he's coming at it from a different standpoint, and it is a more theological and spiritual um, uh, book. So he didn't begin his gospel talking about Christ's birth as Matthew did, nor did he begin with the earthly ministry of Christ as Mark and Luke did. Rather, John began with Christ's eternal existence in heaven before his appearance on earth. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. And that those words in the beginning was the Word. Those first words could be translated before the beginning began. So in an eternity past. This existence in heaven before his appearance on earth is called the pre-existence of Jesus, or of Christ. And to pre-exist means to exist before one is born. None of us in this room existed until we were at least conceived uh, and um, and possibly born. But Jesus has always been. He is eternal, and he lived eternally in heaven. So we call this the pre-existence of Christ. And it is among this passage is among the most profound passages in all of the Bible. And it is an important doctrine. There's a lot of doctrines in Christianity that aren't a hill to die on. That's the way I put it. It is there are a lot of doctrines that can be debated, but this isn't one of them. This is a hill to die on. This is who Jesus is, and it is among the pre-existence of Christ and the eternality of Christ, and the God had Jesus being part of the Godhead is theology about which we cannot disagree. So I'm going to read this to you, and then we'll walk through. We're just going to go through 13 today. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness is not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light. John was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. The true light, who gives life to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed on his name, to them he gave the right. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. So that's up through 13. We'll stop there for now. We'll go through the rest of it soon. So we're going to talk about the fact of Jesus's. The fact of Jesus' pre-existence. And it's very clearly stated in John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And as I told you, that we could translate that before the beginning began, before anything was created. Jesus was there. We see in Genesis 1 that God speaks creation into existence, and time and matter came into being at that time. And when that would happen, Jesus was already there. In fact, he's called the Word. And isn't it interesting that God speaks creation into being? And Jesus is the agent of that creation. So we've got this John's beautiful passage here, and this beautiful book that he wrote. But he was very different from Paul. Paul was an intellectual. He was a lawyer. He was a debater, and he used he would use reasoning to make his points on Jesus. John, on the other hand, didn't do that kind of thing. He wasn't building a case, like a lawyer's case. And Paul was a lawyer, so that's why he argued, not argued like, why are you doing that? This is just when he reasoned with people, he reasoned like a lawyer because he was a lawyer. Because he what? Sorry, you're going to have to speak up a little bit. Yeah, he did. He did. And what it's called is an apology. And an apology, and you'll find this out next year when you're studying apologetics. But an apology is, and I'm so sorry I did that. An apology in this case is a legal term. And an apology is a defense of something, like a defense lawyer would do. And so next year you will be studying apologetics. You'll be studying the case not only for the beginning of the universe and that God created it, but also the case for Jesus and the Bible and all of that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So that was the way Paul reasoned. He reasoned with legal arguments. And he tells us John, on the other hand, doesn't use those kind of legal arguments. He was a fisherman. He wasn't even a especially educated man. He reasoned with theology. Paul used logical arguments. John is stating theology, truth. So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So what that's telling us is this is an eternity past before time began. In other words, Jesus has always been. There has never been a time when Jesus was not. And we need both lawyers, if you will, people that can make legal arguments and arguments for the truth of the gospel, truth of Jesus, the truth of the Bible, all of that. But we also need to have people like John who can lift our spirits and can make us even feel the truth of who Jesus is. And then John also states in this passage that the Word was with God. The word being used is this word. Oh, no. I erased my stuff. The word being used there in the Greek, in the Greek initially, is pros. And that word literally means face to face. So, like, we're having a little conversation here, right? We're having this, and I probably should get closer here, but we're talking to each other face to face, right? That's what it's saying, except for you're God and I'm Jesus, or you're Jesus and I'm God. I don't know, but they were face to face with one another. That's what this passage is telling us, and there are some people who claim to be Christians. There's some religions that claim to be Christian that say that Jesus wasn't a flesh and blood person, that he was only a thought or an idea in God's mind before the world began. But that's not what the author is telling us. It's not what John is telling us. He's saying that Jesus was face to face with God. And if God saw him, then he's more than an idea or a thought, because you can't see ideas, you can't see thoughts, you can't come face to face with anyone who doesn't have a face, right? So to be face to face with someone, you have to be seeing another person. So John further states that Jesus Christ, the Word, was the creator of the universe. All things were made by him and for him. And a more precise rendering of the Greek here is this word right here. Oh, no. I got the Greek. Yep, go ahead. So ageneto or neto, I don't know. But do you see anything close to a English word in that? What? Ignite or energy? Same kind of idea. Yeah. So that word agneto means it came into existence to make something. In this case, it came into existence. The universe came into existence out of nothing. There was nothing there before except God, and all of a sudden, it was there. And so it means to all things were made through him means that he made that happen. And to make something suggests that Christ may have made the earth from a substance already in existence. But that's not what the Bible tells us. And it's also not what the science tells us. That the Greek here means to bring into existence out of nothing. And next year in Bible class, I'm going to tell you, and you're going to read, that atheistic scientists say that the universe had a beginning and it came, that's why they call it the Big Bang, and it was a huge bang, and there was nothing, and then there was something. They can't explain how that happened because there was nothing before that. Time and space came into being when God created the universe. And atheistic scientists can't explain that. Only believers can explain that because the science looks like Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's what the science looks like. So, yeah, that's what the science tells us too. So, and so this is what it is said about Jesus in Colossians 1:16 and 17. For by him, meaning Jesus, for by Jesus all things were created. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things. And in him all things hold together. That's the Bible telling us how the universe came to be and how and what the science tells us. It is consistent with what the science says. Now, atheistic scientists would say no. They'd say it was an accident. There's no God. But it reads, like I said, Genesis. So, you know what? I'm going to stop there because that's where I stopped with the other classes. But we'll pick up here. But before I tell you that, so what I'm going to say here is going to be a little bit of a cliffhanger. But you know, how do we know that? How do I know what I just told you is true? And so that's what we'll pick up tomorrow, talking about how we know that's true. Okay.